Hello, good cousins. It's James. It's finally Shakespeare Day. Um, Obviously, it's been a while. My personal life is getting complex, and I think that before we start another Shakespeare play, I think I'm going to resolve my personal life, which shouldn't be too much longer, so that we don't have these interruptions for the next play. But for now, we are hip deep in Macbeth. When we last left Macbeth, he's in his castle, and his servants are telling him that 10,000 soldiers are marching toward him. And his soldiers inside his castle are leaving. They are abandoning their posts, and he's freaking out, and he can't decide whether to put his armor on yet or not. And he berates the doctor, that the doctor should be able to fix his wife, who is having a mental breakdown. And so that brings us, today I'm going to do two scenes because I owe you at least that much after so long off. And the first scene is very short. So in the next scene, we are in Act 4. Is this 1? Yeah. No, we're in Act 5, Scene 4. And we now, we swoop over to this invading army, these 10,000 soldiers, headed by Macduff and Malcolm. And we meet Seward, who is the English general that the English king has loaned to this effort. The ranks of this army is swelling as it marches toward Macbeth, of both just Scotsmen who want to fight for their country, and also soldiers from Macbeth's army that are defecting and wanting to fight on their side too. So they're growing and growing, even as Macbeth is becoming more and more isolated inside of his lonely castle. And it's a quick scene, and the most important thing about it is that Malcolm, who has been to war before, says this: "Let every soldier hew him down a bough and bear it before him. Thereby shall we shadow the numbers of our host and make discovery ere in report of us." So this is a common tactic as you're approaching the castle, to just, like, hide yourself behind some shrubbery. So you cut it down and you put it over all your war machines, and you put it all over your soldiers, so that you blend in with the forest as you are moving through it. So the enemy can't tell how many people you got coming after them. And that's just, put that feather in your cap. Keep that in mind as we move forward into the next scene. And also Seward is just very an experience. By the way, that was Malcolm that said that. Malcolm has not been to war, but he's freaking smart and he's studied war. So he again shows that he is a good king, both in peace and he would make a good king to the English mind, both in war and peace, if that makes sense. Seward doesn't speak a lot, but he just says, let's stop talking. This is not a time to be debating. This is a time to be swinging our swords. The only thing that's going to solve the problem that we have before us is to go to war. So let's do it. Enough words. And then we return to Macbeth's castle. And Macbeth is sitting all alone in his throne room. Alone except for one servant who hasn't left, named Seaton. They're not the only ones in the castle, but there's not a whole lot of people left who are willing to fight for Macbeth. And his voice echoes off the walls, and he's sitting in his throne, and he says, "Hang out our banners on the outward walls." The cry is still, "They come. Our castle's strength will laugh a siege to scorn. Here let them lie, till famine and ague eat them up. Were they not forced with those who should have could be ours, we might have met them dareful, beard to beard, and beat them backward home. So he's basically saying there, he's not going to release his army to go fight these 10,000 people. He's going to hide in his castle. He's going to keep his gates closed and hope that the enemy just has to sit there and starve to death, and disease will go through their numbers after a few months and they'll just leave, because he doesn't have enough soldiers left to go fight them, to open his gates and to flood his soldiers out and kick their butts. So this is called a siege, and if you have a good castle, it's probably the smartest thing to do, no matter what. But it also just underlines that Macbeth's options are very limited at this point. He cannot go out and fight. He doesn't have enough people. And then there's a cry of women off in the distance inside the castle, reverberating off the stone walls, the empty castle. And he says, what is that noise? And Seaton says, his servant Seaton says, "It is the cry of women, my good lord." And Seaton leaves to go check on what's going on with that cry. And Macbeth is all alone, and he says to the audience, "I have almost forgot the taste of fears. The time has been my senses would have cooled to hear a night shriek, and my fell of hair would at a dismal treatise rouse and stir as if life were in it. I have supped full of horrors. Direness, familiar to my slaughterous thoughts, cannot once start me." And by that he means that he's dead inside. That things which used to make his hair stand up don't affect him anymore. And in this is some of the big wisdom of Shakespeare. If you keep doing acts, evil acts, horrific acts, your inner self will recoil, and you'll have a hard time sleeping. You'll have a hard time living with yourself if you start doing horrible things. And many people cut off pieces of themselves, of their psychology, deaden that voice that shrieks, "You're doing something horrible, stop," and silence that voice. You have to cut off pieces of your psychology, and if you keep going down that road, you will just get to a point where you don't feel anything anymore, and that's where Macbeth is now. Seaton re-enters, and Macbeth says, "Wherefore was that cry?" And Seaton says, "The queen, my lord, is dead." And now, in the meter of the text, there is an inherent pause. It's the longest pause that I know of in Shakespeare. Shakespeare is telling you that there's silence here. And I believe in that silence, the audience should be saying, "Oh, well, he's just told us that he doesn't feel anything anymore, but he'll feel that. He loves his wife. We've seen them together. They're a wonderful team. They fight, but don't we all with our husbands and wives? They love each other. I know that's going to get him." And after the long pause, Macbeth says, "She should have died hereafter. There would have been time for such a word. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusky death. Out, out, brief candle." By brief candle, he's talking about his wife. "Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. And now we know that he is lost. He can't even feel the death of his wife. who's just committed suicide in his home. He has fallen. And another messenger enters. And he looks over and says, "Thou comest to use thy tongue, thy story quickly." The messenger says, "Gracious my lord, I should report which I saw, but know not how to do it." "Well, say, sir." "As I did stand my watch upon the hill, I looked toward Burnham, and anon methought the wood began to move." And Macbeth starts up and says, "Liar and slave! Let me endure your wrath if it be not so. Within this 3 miles may you see it coming. I say, a moving grove." So Macbeth has been told by the witches that he has no fear until Burnham Wood gets up and walks toward his castle. And a messenger is telling him he's seeing Burnham Wood walking toward his castle. Now, we know from the previous scene that that's because Malcolm said, cut down branches and hide yourselves as we march toward the castle. But see, Macbeth hadn't thought about that before. He thought he was safe, but he's not. Macbeth freaks out, grabs the guy. "If thou speakst false, upon the next tree shalt thou hang alive, till famine cling thee. If thy speech be truth, I care not if thou dost as much for me." I pull in resolution and begin to doubt the equivocation of the fiend that lies like truth. "Fear not till Burnham Wood come to Dunsinane," and now a wood comes toward Dunsinane. Arm and out. If this which he avouches does appear, there's no flying hence, no tarrying here. I begin to be weary of the sun, and wish the estate of the world were now undone. Ring the alarm bell. Blow, wind. Come, rack. At least we'll die with harness on our back. So he's cursing the witches for the way they fooled him. He's saying, if this is true, I'm not going to be able to hide. I'm not going to be able to flee. I am effed, man. This is the end. And he wishes the whole world would die with him. But he says, at least I'll die with armor on, with harness on my back. That's armor. At least I'll die fighting. So give me my sword, give me my armor. I'm going down in a blaze of glory. Scarface. And that is why it is so important that Lady Macbeth is not a bitch. In that pause, when he tells the audience, "I can't feel anything," then the messenger comes and says, "Your wife just committed suicide," and then there's this big pause. I argue that has to be filled with the audience saying, "Oh, he'll feel that. I know he'll feel that. I've seen them. They're in love." And then nothing. And that is the horror of the play. The horror of Macbeth is that you can, by taking by doing the wrong thing, by hurting people, by taking immoral acts, you start to repel yourself, and you start having trouble living with yourself, and you have trouble sleeping at night, and you will cut parts out of yourself in order to just live with yourself, in order just to sleep. And if you continue on that road, you'll become so dead inside that the love of your life, committing suicide, will mean nothing to you. And I think that Shakespeare is arguing that this road is available to us all. This is why I think the play is really a moral tale. It's a highly moral tale, and it asks a lot of the audience to realize that we could all travel down this road. I think this is what Shakespeare is saying. None of us are immune to this danger. And this is what happens if you walk down that road. Okay, till next time, guys.